What's up everyone, this is CoyneDawg here with another GTA video. So in this video we're going back to my head-to-head series, and today I've got for you the Progen T20 versus the Pegassi Osiris. So this is the one that you guys voted for on Twitter. I ran a little poll and this one narrowly beat the Sabre Turbo versus the Pisswasser Dominators, so this is the one I've gone for this week. So let's get straight into it. First up we've got the 2 mile drag. Just a very brief background on these cars. So the T20 is the car that I basically learnt my supercar racing in. It came out just after I started Grand Theft Auto. I was quite late to the GTA scene. And then the Osiris is a car that I've never really driven before I started doing this testing, so it took a little bit of time to get a good handle on. But as you can see on this 2 mile drag, there is absolutely nothing to choose between them. They are, virtually identical in terms of their pace. I ran this test 4 times on each vehicle, as I always do. At least 4 times is normally what I do, and there's just nothing to choose between them at all. Really, the actual difference between them was 0.03 of a second in the T20's favour, which is such a small difference. They are virtually identical in terms of that performance. And then the next test we've got is bridging the gap, which is the bumpy street circuit with the mainly low speed corners. So first up we've got the T20 on this one, and I really enjoyed going back to the T20 and just reminding myself of all those times that I spent with it back in the day when it first released, and all the races that I used to do with it. It was a lot of fun. In terms of this circuit, this car just suits this circuit so perfectly. That section there that you've just been through, this and the Osiris probably go through it better than any other vehicle I've tested so far, because they are so relatively small vehicles and they're also very nimble. They've got a pointy front end to get the cornering in, so to get in there and change the direction in the way that you need to, they do just flow through there so much better than a lot of the other cars like the Nero and the bigger vehicles. And they just handle this track so well. Both of them did. The T20 is just a really nicely balanced car. It's just got everything just right. The brakes are pretty good. The cornering ability is good. It's got reasonable acceleration and top speed. It's just a really, really nice car to drive. The only bad side about the vehicle, I would say, is the price, which is a little bit expensive compared to some of the cars that we've got these days. But yeah, really, really nice. And then the Osiris, I've never driven the Osiris before really in racing situations, so it took me a while to get a good handle on it around this circuit. But once I got a handle on it, I realised what I've been missing out on. It's a really, really nice car to drive. It's, again, beautifully balanced. It gets through that section very, very similar to the T20. And the actual performance of both cars around this circuit, just like in the last one, is very, very similar. The Osiris I would probably put in my top 3 supercars now that I've spent this time with it. It's quite interesting that these two vehicles that were added into the game are a very similar time, to be honest. I think the Osiris came out, was it a couple of weeks before the T20, something like that? It might have been the other way around, I can't remember now. But and their performance is very, very similar. The way they drive is quite similar. It's almost like driving the same car with a different shell in some ways. And the feel of them is that similar. They both have that very pokey front end, which is really what you need on this track, where you've got a lot of tight corners where you can't really get the full racing line that you'd want. But in terms of the actual lap time, again, it's just ridiculously close. The Osiris is 0.08 of a second quicker than the T20. And those lap times, by the way, are within a couple of tenths of the very quickest lap times I've done around this circuit with any of the cars, so that they're very, very competitive around that type of track. And then last up we've got Docked Points, which is the smooth stump piece circuit with mainly mid to high speed corners. And this track will now start to see the difference between the very, very top supercars and these two, which are just very, very good supercars. In terms of an all-round performance level. So if you just cast your mind back to the first test that we did, so we had they were very, very close in terms of the times that they did on the 2 mile drag. However, the times they set were around about half a second slower than the Nero. They were around about a second slower than the X80 Proto, which we know is very, very good in acceleration. And that's kind of where the difference lies between the very top supercars and these two, which are very, very good supercars, I would say. It's just that acceleration difference between them, really, because the Nero Custom, as I've said, is a very, very well-rounded vehicle on all sorts of circuits. These two cars were very, very good on the last track where we were bridging the gap, where they were within a couple of tenths of the very top supercars. On this track, they are a little bit further back, but still reasonably competitive. They both handle the track very, very well. There's no drama with either of them. They just take it in their strides. It's just that little bit of acceleration that they lack to really get up there with the top cars on this circuit, is I would say, to be honest. But the big thing I would say about both of these vehicles is they are both very or reasonably easy to drive quickly. But to drive them right on the very, very limit is quite difficult. I found the limit of both of these cars quite hard to judge, to be honest, because they have a strange kind of handling characteristic where they just grip and grip and grip, and then suddenly it just goes. It's not a progressive loss like it is on some vehicles, like what I found. So it took me some time to judge that, and that's the thing I would say about it to you guys, is if you need to be able to drive them at the very, very top level of their ability, you need to be quite good at racing, I would say. But if you're just racing in public lobbies, then they're both perfect vehicles for that sort of racing, to be honest. I would recommend both of them for that, because they are easy to drive quickly, just like the Nero as well, the Tempesta. There's a lot of the top supercars that are quite easy to drive quick. So in terms of the actual results on this circuit, so again, ridiculously close, 0.02 of a second difference. It's just crazy how close these two vehicles are. So the T20 wins overall, but there's nothing to choose between them. I mean, there was less than a tenth in every single test that I've run them through. They are virtually identical. I would recommend both of them to people, to be honest, as cars. And I personally, on tracks like the first one, Bridging the Gap, I would probably, in future, if I'm racing on those circuits, take something like the Osiris, because I just found it a nicer car to drive in that sort of situation than what I would traditionally use, which is the Nero Custom. So I've learned something from doing this test myself, and I hope that you guys have taken some interesting information from it as well. So that's all I've got for you today, guys, to be honest. So I hope you found that useful. Just a reminder for anyone that's not aware, I have got a Discord channel now, so the link is below in my description, so make sure you sign up for that. And I'd appreciate if you'd subscribe and like the video if you haven't done already. Thanks very much for watching. I'll be back again soon.